George Soros, public enemy
George
number
Soros,
one.
the greatest speculator
George
of them all.
Soros amassed around $1 billion that day, speculating on
supported anti-communist dissident
The man
activity.
who broke the Bank of England.
The name George Soros crops up in the news a lot. He's called Brexit an immensely damaging process and has given about £800,000 to pro-Remain group Best for Britain, helping to launch their campaign for a second referendum on EU membership. He's pretty unpopular in certain corners of Twitter, where he's at the centre of just about every conspiracy theory. Many of them anti-Semitic. He was also falsely linked to the March for Our Lives movement, following the Parkland shooting in Florida. As well as to the Central American migrant caravan heading to Mexico and the US. The liberal businessman was the first target in a mail-bombing campaign aimed at opponents of President Trump. George Soros' critics see him as interfering in international affairs. He donated to both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And in the 1980s, he helped undermine Hungary's communist regime.
There was something wrong with the regime, so they were ripe to fall.
Much of Soros' global reach is through his charity, Open Society Foundations, which he's donated $32 billion to. He says he founded the charity to build vibrant and tolerant democracies.
There are certain things one has to fight for, even if it's not popular.
George Soros' campaign of support for refugees in Europe has caused quite a stir.
We've got enemies, Open Society and its enemies.
His own Hungarian government put their hostility towards him on display. Here, organisations supporting illegal immigration must now be registered. The name the government gave to this legislation? Stop Soros. Hungary's Prime Minister is one of Soros' fiercest critics. When the murder of a journalist in neighbouring Slovakia prompted anti-government protests there, this is how Viktor Orban responded.
Soros György és a hozzá hasonló szervezeteknek a munkáját, illetve annak a kezenyomát a szlovák eseményeken, és egy percig sincsen kétségem afelől, hogy Soros György és a vele együttműködők mindent megtesznek, minden alkalmat megragadnak, hogy azokat a kormányokat, amelyek ellenállnak a bevándorlásnak, megbuktassák.
George Soros traces his values back to his childhood. Born György Schwartz, he grew up in a Jewish family in 1930s Budapest.
I learned the art of survival from a grandmaster, and that was my father. That has certainly left its mark on me.
His parents changed their surname to Soros to avoid persecution.
My father arranged for us to take false identity, and I lived with another family.
Soros, aged just 14, survived by posing as a relative of a government official, and during this time he witnessed the man confiscating property from his fellow Jews. Soros survived the Nazis, but when Hungary became a communist state, he fled the regime to England, aged 17.
It has influenced me as a fund manager because I took risks, but I also learned how to survive.
In 1970, he set up Soros Fund Management, but it was in the 1992 Black Wednesday crisis that George Soros earned his reputation as a ruthless financier. This came about when speculators put pressure on the pound, causing it to crash. Soros made about $1 billion by short-selling Britain's currency. The government lost about $5.5 billion, and the pound was forced out of the European exchange rate mechanism.
I did it in order to make a profit.
Sure.
And to expect market participants to be concerned about the social consequences of their action is putting the emphasis in the wrong place.
Why?
He says his impact has been overstated.
My power is greatly overestimated. I really did not break the Bank of England. It was the market that broke it. I was just leading the charge. I set up the Open Society Foundation in order to improve the democratic institutions under which we live.
Whether or not he's seen as a force for good, with divisions in politics as deep as ever, the false stories following George Soros could prove as important as the real ones.